Hey guys, real quick before the video starts, we're going to be picking our winners from the last video's giveaway. So the winner of the 6.3 Masterpiece Graveguard Armor is Sam Voss, or IGN Sinsky. I will add you in game and you can pick it up on Bridgewatch. And the winner of the Morgana Raven will be El Cyclone. So congratulations to you two. I will add you both in game and you can pick the item up from me in Bridgewatch. Now moving on to the video, and make sure you watch it because it is a game changer. Hey guys, this video is the first in many Loot from 100 random dungeon maps. In this one, I did 100 tier 6.1 solo dungeon maps and tracked the rewards. I'm going to be comparing it to the normal tier 6 and tier 8 dungeons, so make sure you check those ones out. Links are in the description. So I did the dungeons in the same zone as I did the normal tier 6 dungeons in Parshand Cliffs. However, sometimes when I would pop a map in Cliffs, it would put the dungeon in Razor Rock Edge, a tier 6 zone bordering it, so I found myself going back and forth between the zones quite often. I would suggest if you're going to do solo maps of any type that you find an isolated tier zone of the maps that you're doing so you don't have to run to and fro different maps. I'll probably make sure I keep that in mind for some of my next map videos. The build I used to clear these dungeons was the same one I used in the tier 7 dungeon video. It's a Blood Litter build with Mage Robe, Mage Cowl, and then the Demon Boots and Undead Cape for escape. While it's not the fastest clearing build out there compared to things like the Great Axe and maybe even the One-Handed Spear, it does still have some pretty decent clear time. Now these zones seemed slightly more dangerous than the first time I did this, as I got ganked or dove a total of 5 times, whereas with the last tier 6s I only got dove once. But that being said, all of the dives were relatively harmless. It was mostly just other people doing solo dungeons. The defensives I had in my build with the Demon Boots and Undead Cape were more than enough to get me out of any dive situations I got myself into, and so I died a total of 0 times. There was one weird occasion where I was sitting after completing the dungeon waiting for some gankers to get out of the zone, and I had some people dive me in the boss room as I was waiting there, but even those people weren't super threatening. I just turned around and killed them. In total, these 100 dungeons took me 14 hours and 25 minutes. This comes out to an average of 8 minutes and 39 seconds per dungeon. Comparing this to the flat tier 6 solo dungeons, this is just over 2 hours longer, making it around a minute longer per dungeon than the normal flat 6 ones. The increased amount of time it took me to do them is likely because the enemies are 36% stronger in 0.1 maps, and the fact that I went through more floors in the maps than I did in the normal dungeons. For the maps, I went through 180 floors total, whereas in the flat tier 6 dungeons I only had 154 floors. This is a significant increase, so it's likely that maps, especially 0.1 maps, give you more floors to go through. However, it could have just been random chance. I'll have to see as I continue doing maps. There was also a consistent amount of buff shrines compared to all the other dungeons I've done, with 164 of the buff shrines leading to around 1 buff shrine per floor. Moving on to the loot chests, I received 58 green, 114 blue, 35 purples, and 2 gold chests. This pattern of chests is very similar to what I've been getting for pretty much all the other dungeons. However, despite having gone through 26 more floors than I did in the flat 6 dungeons, the amount of loot chests I got was actually right around the exact same. A possible explanation for this is in the fame chests. For the fame chests I got 9 green, 12 blues, and 2 purples. This totaled to 693 beginner tomes of insight. If we compare this to the normal tier 6 solo dungeons, I only came across 6 greens, 4 blues, and 3 purples that gave me 281 books in total. This means that I got over twice the amount of books and fame chests that I had from the flat 6 dungeons. There were also 18 fame or silver pools / shrines. Moving on to the fame, the total amount of fame that I received from these 100 dungeons was right around 12.3 million, not including any of the Tome of Insight drops or from the fame chests. This comes out to 852,000 fame per hour. Now, this number is very significantly higher than what I was getting from the Flat 6 dungeons, as the Flat 6 dungeons were 7.5 million fame in total, and only 625,000 per hour. In fact, the 6.1 solo dungeons fame actually rivaled that of the normal tier 8 solo dungeons. Okay, moving on to take a look at the loot here. When I did the normal tier 6 dungeons, I said that they were quantity over quality, and this is even more of the case with the 6.1s. I mean, just right off of the bat, all the other dungeons I've done so far, the 6, 7s, 8s, even 5s, I've pretty well filled 2 of my bank tabs. With these 6.1s, they've actually filled almost 4 complete bank tabs have been filled just with loot. The loot is absolutely insane. The amount of it you get, it's almost twice as much as you normally do. I was having big problems with weight during my runs. I can only go out for like half an hour before I had to come back, even with like a tier 8 bag and boot passive. Moving on to the actual loot, it still isn't the greatest quality. I mean, there's a lot of tier 4 stuff, tier 5, tier 6, but compared to the tier 6, just the normal tier 6s, there is a lot more tier 8 or tier 8 equivalent stuff. See like a hammer there, some tier 8 equivalent crossbows and stuff. I even got a tier 9 equivalent with the holy staff here in 8.1, which is nice. You can see almost an entire tab was filled just by weapons and offhands. Like, that's crazy. Moving on to the helmets and stuff. Helmets, again, nothing too crazy. I mean, it's very similar to weapons. A lot of 5s and 6s. A couple of tier 8s or 8 equivalents. Chest pieces, sort of same thing. There's a 7-1 Scholar Rope there. Tier 8 Guardian Armor. Very similar again. We're going to third tab, the boots here. Boots, again, boots are never super exciting. I feel like there's never that many good boots. I got a royal boots here, which I don't really know how much those are worth. Again, some tier 8 stuff, some hunter shoes. I got some, I think I got a pair of demon boots in here somewhere as well. Yeah, right there. So there should be a little bit of money from those. And a weird amount of graveguard boots. So, I mean, that will be a little bit of money there. Moving on to the capes. Again, quite a bit of capes. Normal capes, got a 7-1 normal cape, nothing too crazy for normal capes, but in terms of the special capes, again, very good money in the special capes. I mean, I got a 7-2 keeper cape here, which is pretty insane. It's tier 6 Morgana, some undeads, a lot of keepers actually. So those should sell for a decent amount. Moving on to the fourth tab and final tab is the bags and miscellaneous stuff. A lot of 2 tier 9 equivalent bags, which is really big, 3 tier 8 equivalents, a bunch of tier 7s, actually there's another tier 8 equivalent there, a lot of bags, and then moving even just the lower tier bags, I mean, that is a lot. That's like 34 flat 5 bags. That's insane, with a lot of tier 4 ones as well. So just a huge quantity of bags. I'm sure those will add up a lot. Moving on to silver bags, this is one of the things that surprises me the most. With tier 6 dungeons, I got around 3 million silver bags, around 3,000 of them. Same with tier 7s and 8s, got up to around 3.5 mil, but the 6.1 dungeons, I have over 5.4 mil in silver bags here, just an absurd amount more than I was getting from the normal flat dungeons. So around 5.1k in the 1k silver bags, and then 350k in the bigger ones. Tomes, similar again. I was getting around 70 for the flat ones, but this one is a 106, so a significant increase there. Got a wardrobe, a skin here, a keeper cloth cape for, I think this is an undead cape. It looks kind of laggy. So that's a little interesting, never got one of those before. Maps, a lot of maps actually, 12 tier 6 solo maps, which is quite a bit. Which is pretty interesting. Moving on to runes, relic souls and stuff. Again, just a huge quantity of them. Just a ton of them, right? Like this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Over 6,000 tier 4 runes. Like that's a ton. We've got some tier 8 relics, which is really nice. A lot of tier 7 relics. Soul, same thing. Just a lot more maps too. Got some HC maps, which is nice. Some Cape Crests didn't have too many of those in the past, so that's nice. Some Morgana ones are pretty expensive. 19 Swift Hawk Cubs. I think They used to be around 100k. I think they've dropped a little bit, but still, that's a big chunk of change from Swiftclaw Cubs. I think the most I've gotten before was like around 12, 10 to 12. This is almost double the amount of Swiftclaw Cubs, pretty insane. And then other random miscellaneous stuff. Again, nothing too crazy, not that many tier 6s, so these won't be too much, but just an absolutely absurd amount of loot, just a ton. So I'm gonna go and get this all sold. I think I'm gonna sell some of it actually out in the black zone this time, because a lot of this stuff gets used pretty consistently. A lot of easy stuff in here, so I'm gonna sell some of it here and then transport the rest like currently on probably, and yeah, let's see how much it's all worth. So after selling all of the loot, the total amount of money for the gear, all the helmets, weapons, armors, things like that, came to just shy of 10.6 mil. The total for the Tomes of Insights was around 2.9 mil. The total for the bags and capes was around 4.6 mil. The total for all the miscellaneous random stuff was 7.3 mil. And the total amount from the silver bags collected was right around 5.4 mil. Adding this all together puts our total at 30.85 mil. However, this number isn't our actual profit, as because we were doing maps, we had to buy all of the maps. I bought the maps for an average of around 55k each, bringing the total cost of the maps to around 5.5 mil. If we subtract this number from the total we sold the money for, our actual profit was around 25.35 mil. This puts the total money per hour to just shy of 1.76 mil. So how good is doing solo dungeon maps, specifically tier 6.1 solo dungeon maps? In my opinion, the answer to that is pretty damn good. When looking at pretty much all of the numbers for the 6.1 maps, they line up almost equally to the flat tier 8 dungeons. In fact, the only stat that really changes is how much I got ganked and dope. For me, this makes 6.1 maps not only better than flat 6 dungeons, but also probably flat 7s and flat 8s. Frankly, after doing this video, I have absolutely no reason to ever do normal solo dungeons again. Now, I'm not 100% certain about other maps, but I can definitely say that 6.1 maps are very, very valuable to do. Now, before I get everybody too excited, there are 3 downsides that I can think of to doing maps. The first one is that it's a bigger investment. You have to buy the maps and go out with them, and you're generally going to need higher IP gear to clear the dungeons as they're a little bit harder. The second is that you might get dove a little bit more, especially by other solo dungeoners, as when people click the mobs and see the map symbol, they know there's someone in there doing the dungeon. And the last disadvantage is a little bit of a weird one, is that it's really hard to not go overweight while doing these dungeons. The sheer volume of loot that you get is much higher, and so you fill up on weight very, very quickly. In fact, if you hit a legendary chest, it can fill you up by over 50% of your weight capacity by itself. This means your trips are going to have to be a lot shorter, so I would suggest making sure you have a place where you can bank pretty close by. Now that's all from me, guys. I hope you all enjoyed the video and have fun doing your solo dungeon maps. See you in the next one.
Right in the beats.